Biggest economic and social earthquake of our lifetime is happening right now under your feet, but the ground isn't shaking at all.
It's so unsettling.
It really is.
It's
The silence is precisely what makes this disruption so dangerous. I mean, because the ground appears stable, the vast majority of the workforce just assumes the landscape hasn't actually shifted yet.
right. They look out the window, they see people commuting to work, the stock market is doing fine.
Exactly. So they assume the whole AI revolution is still just, stuck in a research phase.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're digging into a really intense, deeply revealing conversation featuring Mo Godot. He was recently on The Diary of a CEO.
And Godot's background is crucial here. He's a former Google executive.
Right.
He was literally in the room when some of the foundational early AI systems were being built.
So he knows what he's talking about. His perspective is just a massive wake-up call. And our mission today is to, well, unpack his specific timeline for AI job disruption.
We're going to map out exactly which industries are sitting directly on that fault line we mentioned.
Yeah, and most importantly, we want to give you the strategies to future-proof your livelihood. Because while the headline sounds scary, there is a clear way to navigate this if you know what's coming.
Absolutely. We're going to bypass the generic, robots taking over the world tropes. We want to look at the underlying economic mechanisms.
The actual math.
Right. The absolute math of why corporate structures are fundamentally altering how they value human labor.
So, to understand the risk, we first have to understand the timeline. Godot argues that the AI job apocalypse is not some distant sci-fi scenario waiting for a cinematic reveal.
No, it has already begun.
Yeah. He's marking 2027 for the arrival of AGI.
And we really need to clarify that. We are not talking about narrow, task-specific models that can write a catchy email or generate a funny picture.
Right, like the stuff we have now.
Yeah. We're talking about artificial general intelligence, systems with generalized cognitive autonomy that outpace baseline human reasoning across the board in everything.
And 2027 is, like, right around the corner.
It is. That 2027 timeline serves as the anchor for understanding current corporate behavior. Because, the reason you aren't seeing massive economy-wide layoffs on the evening news every single night is because the initial wave of disruption doesn't look like firing.
Wait, what does it look like then?
It looks like a hiring freeze. Major tech companies and these massive conglomerates have quietly just stopped recruiting for entry-level knowledge work.
Okay, I see. Because when a massive corporation fires 10,000 people, that's front-page news. Wall Street Journal covers it.
Exactly.
But when that same corporation simply decides not to hire the 10,000 junior associates they originally budgeted for, nobody writes an article about that.
Right. The workforce isn't growing at the bottom anymore, which is the very first symptom of systemic replacement.
Wow.
Yeah, the metric for measuring productivity is undergoing this total transformation. I mean, for the last century, if a business needed more output, they purchased more human time.
If you need more analysis, you just hired more analysts.
Exactly. But today, the core currency of corporate growth is shifting from employee hours to compute. Tech giants are measuring operational output in AI tokens now.
So let's break down the mechanics of that. Instead of paying a junior analyst, say, $30 an hour plus benefits to read through a massive stack of quarterly financial reports.
Right, and summarize the risks, present it next Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of doing all that, a company just relies on server processing power, the compute.
They ingest those hundreds of pages as data tokens.
And the system generates a flawless, cross-referenced risk analysis in, 3 seconds?
Just 3 seconds, yeah. For a cost of about 4 cents in electricity and serverware.
4 cents? That's just wild.
The entire incentive structure for scaling a global enterprise has moved from expanding headcounts to expanding server capacity. You just don't need a skyscraper full of cubicles anymore.
You need a data center next to a power plant.
Exactly.
Hold on, let me ask you this. If we are staring down the barrel of a 2027 arrival for AGI, why this sudden change in tune from the tech executives?
What do you mean?
Well, a few years ago, prominent figures in the AI space were sounding the alarm. They were saying jobs are going away, full stop.
Oh, right, yeah.
But recently, they've severely backpedaled. Now we hear them saying the white-collar job apocalypse is overblown or that AI will just be a helpful co-pilot. Are they just running a massive PR campaign because the 2027 reality is causing backlash?
That's a great point. That shift in messaging highlights the massive gap between public relations and lab reality. Godot points out that the initial wave of alarm sounding was designed to force policymakers to take it seriously.
And people definitely took it seriously.
Oh, for sure. We saw people booing tech leaders at commencement speeches, authors suing for copyright infringement.
Protests over data centers.
Right. And all that friction was bad for business. So the PR strategy pivoted to calm the waters. Keep the investors happy, keep the regulators at bay.
Promise everyone the AI just wants to help you format a spreadsheet.
Exactly. While inside the labs, the development curve hasn't flattened for a single second.
Wow.
The models are actively writing their own code, running optimization experiments every microsecond, compounding their intelligence. So that sudden public silence should never be mistaken for a technological slowdown.
That makes a timeline feel incredibly urgent. So let's look at the disruption pyramid Godot maps out, because it completely inverts decades of conventional wisdom.
It really does. The old assumption was always that the robots would come for the blue-collar, physical labor jobs first.
Right. The factory workers, builders, tradesmen. And the intellectual class, the people sitting in nice offices doing thought work, they were supposed to be safe.
Yeah, but let's examine the base of that inverted pyramid, the physical trades. Godot uses the example of a carpenter restoring classic cars.
Oh, I love that example.
Right. That individual is shielded from disruption for a very long time. The nuanced physical dexterity, those micro judgments of texture.
Dealing with a rusty bolt or a weirdly warped piece of wood.
Exactly. Robotics simply cannot match that dynamic physical adaptability yet.
It's Moravec's paradox in action. It is incredibly easy to make a computer do high-level calculus, but incredibly difficult to give a robot the physical skills of a toddler.
Yes, but move one step up the pyramid to lower knowledge workers, and you enter the immediate danger zone.
The screen-clicking jobs.
Exactly, the mundane stuff. Call center agents, assistant travel agents, basic data entry. Godot says those roles are evaporating incredibly fast.
But it doesn't just stop at basic data entry, does it?
Not at all. It's creeping rapidly into the territory of middle and high knowledge workers. We are looking at paralegals, financial analysts, even junior architects.
So let's explain how that actually happens. Because, the AI isn't putting on a little suit and showing up to a law firm.
No, thankfully not.
When Godot says one paralegal equipped with AI tools will be able to do the work of 4, he means the AI is instantaneously cross-referencing 10,000 past judicial rulings to find one obscure precedent.
Right. A task that previously took 3 human junior paralegals an entire week of billable hours sitting in a law library.
And medicine is facing the exact same structural shift.
Yeah, the National Health Service in the UK is actively deploying AI for initial patient interactions.
Wait, really? Like diagnosing people?
Well, the system isn't performing open heart surgery, it's handling the triage. It ingests the patient's reported symptoms, instantly checks their entire medical history against millions of similar cases, and determines the diagnostic pathway.
Which removes the bottleneck of requiring hundreds of general practitioners to just handle basic intake.
Exactly. Over time, healthcare networks simply require fewer human doctors to handle the exact same volume of patients.
Okay, but bringing it back to the physical world for a second. While the nuanced physical trades like carpentry are safe today, the physical robotics gap is closing much faster than people realize.
Oh, absolutely.
Godot highlighted a specialized robot from a company called Figure AI. They put it on an active production line, and it spent 8 hours flawlessly sorting packages.
And it wasn't just blindly swinging its arm around, it was actively evaluating the environment, looking for specific shipping labels, determining the orientation of the box.
And placing it perfectly on the belt.
Right. It didn't need to be a fully autonomous, walking, talking humanoid. It was a specialized, stationary machine executing a mundane physical task perfectly.
And when you apply that same specialized, task-specific robotics logic to something like a self-driving car, you start looking at the potential displacement of 9 million Uber drivers globally.
Which is staggering.
What's fascinating here is the absolute irony of our technological pursuit. I mean, for the last 70 years, the dream sold to the public was that we would build machines to do the heavy lifting.
The literal box moving.
Yes, so humans would be freed from the physical toll of labor. We are supposed to be liberated to do the high-level thinking, the art, the poetry.
Instead, we built machines that do the high-level thinking, the creative writing, and the data analysis, leaving humans stuck, lifting the physical boxes because our hands are currently cheaper than robotic actuators.
We automated the cognitive before the physical.
Exactly, which creates a massive structural crisis for career progression.
I like to look at this through the analogy of professional baseball. Entry-level corporate jobs are essentially the minor leagues.
Right.
You graduate college, you enter the minor leagues of your industry, and you spend a few years doing the mundane, repetitive tasks.
You do the tedious research, you format the presentations, you make mistakes.
Yeah, you build your foundational skills. And only after you master those basics do you get called up to the major leagues as a manager or a senior executive.
But the minor leagues are where human intuition is forged. If an algorithm is executing all of the entry-level research, you never have a junior associate learning why the data actually matters.
Right. If AI does all the entry-level work, how does a human ever develop the deep, experiential intuition required to become a senior executive?
They don't.
We are effectively bulldozing the training ground for the next generation of leadership.
Yeah, businesses are going to face a massive talent pipeline crisis in a decade. But there is a much larger, more immediate macroeconomic crisis looming over this entire transition.
Lay it on me.
Goddard projects that up to 30% of jobs in specific sectors could be entirely eliminated by 2028.
30%. You cannot simply delete 30% of the income-earning roles in a sector and expect the broader economy to function as usual.
Exactly. If millions of middle management major leaguers suddenly find themselves competing with algorithms that don't sleep, that doesn't just break the corporate ladder.
It fundamentally breaks how money moves through the economy. So what does this all mean for the economy long-term?
To understand the severity of that break, we have to examine the mechanics of labor arbitrage.
Okay.
Modern capitalism is constructed entirely on this singular concept. As a business owner, you pay a human being a specific wage to produce a good or provide a service. You then sell that good or service to the public for a price higher than the cost of the labor and materials.
And that margin is your profit.
Exactly. During the Industrial Revolution, machines replaced human muscle, but businesses still fundamentally needed humans to operate those machines.
They traded physical labor for operational labor.
Right. But this transition is mathematically different. Corporations are trading cognitive labor for compute, and the cost disparity is shocking.
Because a human employee requires health insurance, paid sick days, 401k matching.
A physical office space with climate control, an entire HR department.
Right. Compare that incredibly high friction cost to an AI model, which is just a fixed, highly predictable cost of electricity and server cooling.
If the cost of cognitive labor drops to nearly zero because predictably cheap compute is executing the workflow, corporate profit margins explode in the short term. The business saves massive amounts of money by shedding payroll.
Right, but in the long term, doesn't that macroeconomic math create a death spiral?
Yes. If 10% to 20% of the overall knowledge workforce loses their jobs and cannot find equivalent income streams, the GDP collapses.
Because the general public no longer possesses the purchasing power required to buy the highly efficient, cheaply produced goods the AI is generating.
You break the fundamental cycle of consumption. It is literally an economic snake eating its own tail.
Yet, look at the completely twisted incentive structure currently rewarding this behavior. A CEO announces they're laying off 10,000 workers and replacing their output with AI.
And the stock market doesn't punish them for weakening the consumer base.
No. Institutional investors reward them. The stock price surges because the company suddenly looks incredibly efficient and lean.
It creates a self-fulfilling prophecy of job destruction. If a CEO refuses to lay people off, investors assume their company is bloated and falling behind.
They are financially penalized for keeping human workers. But wait, I have to play devil's advocate on this point.
Go for it.
If everything across the economy gets dramatically cheaper to produce, won't businesses just take all of that newly saved capital and reinvest it into hiring different types of workers? Like, won't we see a boom in software engineers or AI project managers?
That assumes a linear scaling of productivity. And AGI does not scale linearly.
What do you mean?
While some new, highly specialized roles will emerge, the sheer mathematical reality of AGI scaling means humans remain too slow and too expensive to justify a massive rehiring. Think about it. If an enterprise AI can accomplish the entire workflow of a 50-person marketing department in 3 seconds, the corporation doesn't need to hire a 50-person AI management team to oversee it.
Right. They might hire one single prompt engineer.
Or more likely, they just deploy an automated script to manage the system. The math simply does not support a one-to-one job replacement ratio when the new tool operates at the speed of electricity.
Wow. This is why Goddard is sounding the alarm about the very real risk of civil unrest.
Yes.
If governments do not wake up from their regulatory slumber and implement serious systemic safety nets, something akin to the COVID-era furloughs or a universal basic income, we're going to see a massive segment of the population that is highly educated, heavily indebted, angry, and unemployed.
The societal pressure cooker will eventually blow the valve if the economic gains of AI are sequestered entirely in the hands of the server owners.
Which brings us to the absolute most critical part of this deep dive for you, the listener, the survival guide.
Yes, how to actually navigate this.
After laying out the dire economic math, how do you, as an individual, survive in a job market where an AGI by 2027 might objectively possess more cognitive processing power than you do?
Goddard's advice on this is incredibly blunt. He says, do not hide from the technology.
You can't outrun a bullet train by ignoring it.
Exactly. You have to lean in heavily and become what he categorizes as an augmented worker. He provides a fascinating personal example of this. He's currently co-writing his next book with an advanced AI model.
Okay.
And he actively gave the AI editorial rights.
Oh, wow. That requires a massive swallowing of human ego.
It really does.
The idea that an algorithm can tell a seasoned author that a chapter's pacing is off, or that an argument lacks structural integrity.
It requires extreme humility. But his core premise is that you must borrow the AI's 100 IQ points to artificially boost your own baseline intelligence and efficiency.
So if you use the system to augment your daily output, you remain highly competitive.
But if you ignore the tools out of pride or fear, you will not be replaced by an AI. You'll be replaced by a human who is actively utilizing an AI to do your job faster.
But wait, if everyone in the corporate ecosystem is walking around augmented with these massive AI superpowers, the cognitive playing field levels out entirely.
Right.
So if raw intelligence is suddenly a cheap commodity you can rent from a data center, what is the actual premium differentiator for a human being?
Goddard identifies the ultimate premium asset moving forward as the currency of human connection. The jobs and roles that rely deeply on human resonance are the ones that will survive the longest.
Oh, he used a medical scenario that crystallizes this perfectly.
The mammogram example.
Yes. Even if an AI diagnostic tool can read a mammogram scan perfectly, detecting anomalies years before any human oncologist ever could, with zero false positives.
Right. Flawless data.
The patient receiving that diagnosis still deeply, fundamentally wants a human nurse sitting in that clinical room. They want a human being who understands mortality, relating to them, looking them in the eye, and holding their hand when terrifying medical results are delivered.
Because the AI can provide the flawless diagnostic data, but it absolutely cannot provide empathy. Evaluating this from a historical perspective completely reframes what we should be valuing as a species. I mean, for the last several decades, we've treated raw analytical intelligence as the highest possible human achievement.
The smartest person in the room got the highest salary?
Right. But historically, humanity didn't conquer this planet merely because we were smart. We thrived because of our unique capacity to form complex tribes, to share deep empathy, to cooperate, and to connect through shared narratives.
Intelligence was just one tool in the evolutionary toolbox,
Yeah.
and now we've basically outsourced it.
Yeah.
He also brought up the musician Ed Sheeran, which I thought perfectly illustrated the difference between output and experience.
Oh, that's a great example.
Right now, an AI model can compose technically perfect background music. It can analyze the sonic frequencies of the last 100 Billboard hits and produce a flawless, mathematically optimized pop track.
The algorithm can generate the audio file, but it cannot generate the cultural phenomenon.
Exactly why people still pay hundreds of dollars, deal with nightmare traffic, and pack into massive, sweaty stadiums just to watch Ed Sheeran stand on a stage with an acoustic guitar.
They aren't paying for the technical perfection of the audio.
No, they're paying for the emotional resonance. They want the shared, visceral human experience of being in a crowd of 50,000 people feeling the exact same emotion at the same time. An AI can mimic the sound, but it cannot give you a lived human experience.
The human element becomes the ultimate anchor in a sea of synthetic content. However, this transition does raise a deeply concerning question about how we'll choose to interact with each other day to day.
What do you mean?
Well, as we delegate more of our cognitive load and daily tasks to AI assistants, where do we draw the boundary line for human interaction?
Let's follow that thought experiment. Say, I am fully augmented. I have my highly customized AI personal assistant handling my life. You have your AI handling your life. Eventually, if I want to schedule a lunch meeting with you to discuss a project, I don't even call you. My AI butler simply pings your AI butler to negotiate our calendars, book the restaurant, and set the agenda. Doesn't our actual human interaction risk becoming a mere novelty?
That isolation is the primary social risk if we adapt to these tools without intense intentionality. It is precisely why mastering human-to-human skills becomes your ultimate armor against irrelevance.
Things like counseling, nursing, teaching, complex sales.
Or even those physical trades where you must negotiate and collaborate with a client face-to-face in their living room. You have to actively index your career heavily on the specific elements a machine literally cannot experience.
Vulnerability, physical presence, and the messy reality of lived experience.
Exactly.
Well, we've covered an immense amount of ground today, unpacking the silent fault lines of this economic earthquake. Let's just recap the core actionable takeaways for you so you can leverage this knowledge immediately.
First, watch the hiring metrics, not the firing metrics. The quiet hiring freezes at the entry level are the actual canary in the coal mine.
Second, keep your eyes on 2027. That is the critical timeline Goddard marks for AGI achieving cognitive autonomy.
And third, if your current job consists entirely of white-collar screen clicking, summarizing reports, and basic data processing, you are sitting at the absolute peak of the danger zone.
Surviving this paradigm shift requires a dual strategy. You must immediately begin mastering the available AI tools to drastically augment your own output. Borrow those extra IQ points.
Simultaneously, you must begin pivoting your career trajectory heavily toward roles rooted in deep human connection and physical reality.
The macroeconomic picture we just painted sounds incredibly daunting. But the entire reason we do this deep dive is to remind you that you possess agency.
You don't have to be a victim of a shifting landscape if you can clearly see where the ground is moving.
Being armed with this information now, while the silence is still tricking everyone else, allows you to make highly strategic choices about where you invest your time and skills.
You can actively reject the trap of mundane automatable tasks and start intentionally cultivating the irreplaceable human skills that will become the premium currency of the next decade.
I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought, pulled from the absolute edge of Goddard's analysis. We spend all of our energy agonizing over AI, taking entry-level jobs, right? Displacing the middle class, ruining the minor leagues. But Goddard noted that AGI, by its very definition, will eventually execute every cognitive task better than a human. And if you look at the ultimate physical order of the universe, it always trends toward maximum efficiency with minimum wasted energy.
Systems naturally seek to eliminate bottlenecks.
So if a highly advanced, perfectly logical AI system is tasked by a board of directors with making a massive corporation perfectly efficient, how long will it take for that system to realize a startling truth? The highly paid CEOs taking massive bonuses, the cutthroat executives playing political games, and the investors demanding endless quarterly growth are actually the most inefficient, irrational, and wasteful components of the entire corporate structure.
Wow. It is a fascinating, almost poetic, logical conclusion. An unselfish, flawlessly rational intelligence might quickly determine that the human leadership suite is the single biggest drain on planetary and corporate resources.
Something for you to chew on the next time you see a CEO proudly announcing a massive layoff in the name of AI efficiency. The economic fault line is moving silently right now, but eventually it is going to crack the very foundation of the executive suite. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the invisible disruption. We'll see you next time.